and said that he had all that information because he was writing a book. You know, red flags were everywhere. It's like he implanted himself into these murders. He kept implanting himself into investigation.
We've gotten a chance to read through excerpts of Lovey's journals, and what they contain is definitely interesting. The victims he claimed in this manifesto of sorts ranged from children to adults, including both men and women, and all of them had died by various means. Here, we will read a few portions from an official police report related to Lovey's journal entries. We've abbreviated the excerpts for the sake of time. However, there are inconsistencies in this version compared to what others have told us. What we are about to read is taken verbatim from police reports.
Louis Lee Riddle Jr., Quebec, Canada. Riddle stated that the outlaws were just the gophers for other people who obtained between $10,000 and $15,000 per child. Riddle stated that sometime in 1986, he and another member of the outlaws kidnapped a girl from either Quebec or Toronto, Canada. Riddle described the girl as a 9-year-old who was beautiful with long dark hair. They went to a supermarket and picked her out, and when she drifted away from her mother, they snatched her and placed her in the van and took her to Houston or Spring, Texas. The deal went sour, and he took her where all the others go when a deal goes sour, meaning he dumped the body where he dumps the others when the deals do not go through. On May 9th, 1981, Riddle explained that he was involved in a homicide wherein the victim was a 17-year-old girl killed on the Fox Ferry Road in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Riddle stated that they picked up this girl along the road and took her to a creek where they raped her. He talked of participating in the kidnapping of 35-plus children. Riddle took the baby and threw it off of a bridge over the Escatawba River in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Riddle claimed to have been sitting on his motorcycle at the bridge when the baby was thrown off.
This podcast
At the time the baby was thrown off of the bridge, all
putting-
he was wearing was a pair of Pampers. The female became very violent when she realized the baby was not with them and started to scream at them. Placed a .25 automatic pistol above her chin and shot and killed her. Riddle recalls
from the
that
left
a
to the
3-year-old
right,
baby was later found floating
which
in
is
the
just
river
weird.
and was buried as baby Jane, as they could not identify the baby.
The huge difference between
Now
what
it's in the
Lovey
center
initially
again.
told investigators in 1983 and what he later wrote in his journals was what his role was
I guess that's a
in
good way
tossing
to
Delta Dawn's little
just
body over the
differentiate
bridge
from,
into the Escatawba River
the different things
after
that
meeting
they were
up
trying
with
to
her
say.
mother.
In his journal,
Just,
he said that he killed
I just
Delta,
noticed, I guess.
and he shot the mother, who was a 22, under the chin.
Did it sound believable?
At the time, yeah, absolutely.
So you never really had a chance to rule him out as a suspect?
Yeah.
Bobby is our big gray and white furball who spends most of his time outside. But when he decides to hang out with the family, he thinks he's a dog. His personality is friendly and playful. He makes everyone in our family laugh. But as much as we love our cat, I'm not fond of the stink bombs they leave in their litter box. Everything from cleaning to covering up the smell is a constant battle. That's why I use Pretty Litter. Pretty Litter is a kitty litter reinvented. Unlike traditional litter, Pretty Litter's super light crystals trap odor and release moisture, resulting in dry, low-maintenance litter that doesn't smell. And Pretty Litter is virtually dust-free because it's manufactured with a specialized de-dusting process. Less dust and no fuss. Pretty Litter arrives safely at my door in a small, lightweight bag that lasts up to a month. Now that I get litter bags auto-shipped, I don't have to deal with last-minute trips to the store, and shipping is free. But above all else, here's why Pretty Litter is a pet parent's hero. It's a health indicator. Pretty Litter monitors my cat's health by changing colors when it detects potential underlying issues. You won't find that kind of innovation in conventional litter. Get the world's smartest litter without leaving home by visiting prettylitter.com and use promo code SOLVABLE for 20% off your first order. That's prettylitter.com, promo code SOLVABLE for 20% off. prettylitter.com, promo code SOLVABLE. Career criminal Lovey Riddle's claims and writings about killing baby Jane and her missing mother were definitely bold, but they were hard to prove. Jackson County investigators spent a lot of time learning all they could about Lovey to vet whether or not he really was their killer, or was just another person who wanted to brag about a crime they didn't commit. We did some digging of our own, too, for this show. Louis Lee Riddle Jr., also known as Lovey, was originally from Bay Minette, Alabama. He has been in and out of prison for everything from fraud to sexual felonies. He's a registered public sex offender who at one point in his criminal career dubbed himself the Interstate Man. According to an article in the Bangor Daily News, Lovey dropped out of school at 10 years old, but later earned his high school diploma while incarcerated during the 1990s. According to the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Gail Malone, who prosecuted one of his cases, his childhood was utterly neglectful. There were no boundaries for right or wrong.
While producing this show, we reached out to Lovey through an email address we found on public records. He's out of prison now. We hope that he may be interested in sharing his perspective on these cases and his bizarre journal entries. But when we asked him for an interview, he replied back simply asking, quote, "Why?" end quote. As of this recording, he has yet to respond to our last message.
We have no way of determining what involvement, if any, Lovey had in the crimes he journaled about, including the case of baby Jane and her mother. Maybe one day he will publish the book about his life story that he told so many law enforcement agencies and judges he wants to write. Maybe in those pages, he will reveal a detail that opens a door for investigators. In the meantime, we're left waiting, which is exactly what Jackson County Sheriff's investigators had been doing until they got a bombshell update from Othram Labs in Houston. The genetic genealogy results were in. Coincidentally, they came in at the exact same time we were producing this show in Pascagoula.
We had gotten the name of the potential mother. We had a Facebook page. We dug deep into that Facebook page and started going through everything that was on there. And I think what the lab had told us was, we believe this is the mother. It is possible that she could be an aunt.
That's on the next episode of Solvable.
Name one thing you can get delivered. Did you say beer? Because with Drizzly, you can get beer, wine, and spirits delivered to your door in under 60 minutes. The possibilities are endless. Right now, Drizzly is giving all new customers $5 off their first order with code QUICK5. So, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. And use promo code QUICK5 for $5 off your first order.
On the last episode of Solvable,
Lovey said that a biker by the name of Spider had actually thrown Delta over that bridge. It was in a biker club.
we explored the confession and subsequent recanting of the self-professed serial killer, Lovey Riddle, in the case of baby Jane, Delta Dawn. But in the end, it led law enforcement no closer to identifying baby Jane or her missing mother. In 2020, as our team was wrapping up a trip to Jackson County, Mississippi, and meeting with the sheriff and investigative team, Chief Deputy Ledbetter received a call with incredible news. Investigators had made big strides in positively identifying baby Jane, Delta Dawn. Based on the results that had come in via the genetic genealogy report that Othram Labs had provided them, the sheriff's office assembled a team and sent them up to Missouri to chase a lead. One of those officers on that team, a man named Joe Bignell, did an interview with us to explain why the group traveled so far away from Jackson County.
We had gotten the name of the potential mother. We had a Facebook page. We dug deep into that Facebook page and started going through everything that was on there, family members, anywhere that she might have been. We did law enforcement databases. We checked into those. We checked a lot of the open source databases that will track where basically a person has lived. And what we were hoping and trying to find was some connection between the potential mother and Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, somewhere down here along the Gulf Coast. And actually, Sam, I've come home and had her start looking through the archives and the newspapers, which she's gotten pretty good at over the years, and just trying to dig and see if there was anything with the name that we were given that would put the potential mother in South Mississippi or anywhere along the Gulf Coast. Unfortunately, we were not able to make the connection. There was nothing showing that she was ever here in the late 70s to the early 80s when the baby would have been born.
Joe referenced someone by the name of Sam in that last segment, and I think it's a good time to give a little backstory. You see, Sam is Joe's wife. Prior to our interview, we had no idea that Sam actually knew about this case long before her husband. She first found out about the case of baby Jane Delta Dawn nearly 12 years ago while doing research on the unidentified victims of Hurricane Katrina.
So I learned about her case, it was probably 2008. I had graduated high school in 2006 after Katrina hit. I was a senior when Hurricane Katrina hit. And there is still, I think it's 2 does from Hurricane Katrina. They're buried in Jackson County, and I was researching that because I was seeing, if everybody had been found. And whenever I started researching those does, I started researching and seeing all the other Jane does in the area, and I realized she's only, 5 years older than me. I found her, and then I found the other baby Jane in Jackson County, and so I just went down a complete rabbit hole. I started back then in 2008, I think it was.
I first learned about it, again, like I said, while working on shift with Lieutenant Versace. It was just one of the cases that had come up that he had always looked into. So it was probably 7-8 years ago when I first heard about the case. At the time, I was a patrolman. I didn't really, just kind of read what Darren had on it, and that was about it.
Joe and Lieutenant Darren Versace, who we interviewed last episode, both worked together at the Pascagoula Police Department. They're good friends, and were actually even next-door neighbors for a while. Their interest in baby Jane's case grew more the longer they lived and worked together in southern Mississippi.
Just constantly talking about the case. That's kind of where it had gotten brought to my attention again after originally hearing about it 7-8 years ago.
Here's the thing. Joe and Darren worked for Pascagoula Police Department, not for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And Joe actually went on to work for the FBI by the time he really got interested in the case. So I asked him how it even came to be that he started working on the baby Jane Delta Dawn investigation to begin with.
We had known baby Jane was exhumed in 2008 and they had a DNA profile. So I had reached out to Eddie Clark with Jackson County. I was just curious if they had sent the DNA off or if that was an option. And when I talked to him, he said that they were in the process of getting the DNA back from a lab, and they were working on finding a lab to send it to do the genealogy on it. And it kind of died off after that. Again, I think that was the end of 2019. So probably 6 months later, again, now I've been over at the FBI for about probably a year and a half, and I learned about an FBI case that they had with 3 missing women, I guess not missing, murdered women from Pascagoula between, I think it was 75